So today I'm going to do a trip/experience report. Well, experience report on magic mushrooms, I think. Yeah, I'll do it on magic mushrooms. So I guess I'll start off by talking about. I want to talk about low level and high level experiences, like I always do. But I kind of want to talk about my first mushroom experience because, I really enjoyed my first mushroom experience. So I remember going out to a friend of mine's house, a friend of mine who I know is Seto. I don't know if we're still friends, but I'd like to hope we are. And there was a couple of other guys with us. There was Seto and I think Neo might have been there. Presty was there. Captain Payne might have been there. I don't know if Captain Payne was there. And maybe Mr. Trolley. Anyways, so basically back in these days, I was only really dark. I was a dark man. I was only really smoking weed back at this time. Like, I hadn't really done too much of the stuff. I'd already done acid by this point, to be fair. So it's not like I didn't really know what was going on completely. But it was still relatively new. I'd never done magic mushrooms before. I hadn't any experience apart from with LSD. And these guys were talking about mushrooms. We've been talking about them for a while. I was not worried about trying them like I was when I first had weed. I was actually pretty fucking psyched. So what we decided to do is go out and pick them ourselves on top of a hill that all the locals go to. We went out to this hill, we picked them, we ate a few of them as we were picking them. When I say a few, and these were lib caps by the way, I mean about 30 or 40 each, which is a fairly good amount of them. We collected maybe 300 or 400, I'd say. Maybe 300 would be a better estimate. And we walked to Seto's house. We started coming up a little bit on the way to Seto's house, and I remember starting to trip, and even though I'd had an experience or so before, not much experience, might have just been the one experience actually, of tripping before, I didn't really understand this feeling. It was still new to me, so it was quite overwhelming, quite strange actually. But it was a small amount of experience, it's your first wave, it's nothing major. It feels a bit weird and you're not used to it, but it's not something you can't deal with. It's not incredibly earth-shattering or anything like that, so it's not as much of a worry. However, we went to Seto's house, and all of a sudden his girlfriend at the time rings, starts arguing with him, shouting at him, screaming at him, and he's saying, "You can't do this to me while on this kind of substance." So anyway, she keeps shouting at him, continues telling him all these things, talking about the relationship, and he's like, "Please don't do this to me, please don't scream at me." She's screaming at him. I think Neo took the phone at one point, and she's screaming at Neo, and Neo's like, "No man, I can't hear this." I'm just sort of in the corner, like, watching them go off. Everything's kind of going in sepia for all of us guys. I'm tripping second wave, not extremely hard, but hard enough that I definitely know it's weird, and I haven't really experienced something like that so much myself. And then his dad told us basically we had to get out of the house, so we're feeling all this weird tripping, we're just getting comfortable in the house. We go outside and it's fucking raining an absolute storm. We're all pretty young. It's our first times actually really tripping properly. And so he kicks us out. We're out in the cold rain. We go out under these dark tunnels and through the middle of town. Everything's grisly. We don't know where the fuck we're gonna go. We're just walking around tripping. No real knowledge of where we're gonna go. And so Mr. Trolley offered for us to go to his. I remember us stopping at the bus stop. And at the bus stop is when it started to get really intense for me. Really intense. we were all sort of having a bad trip at the bus stop, except for Seto. Seto had this bad trip when his girl was talking. After that, he was pretty much fine for the whole night. And I remember seeing like ominous statue-like figures, weird creatures coming towards me, numbers sort of talking to me. I remember feeling like death was in sync with me. Death wanted to tell me about my life, wanted dealings with me. At one point, I remember Seto's girlfriend came down. She was a bit happier. She was cool with everything at this point. And I asked her to hug me because I thought, oh, you know, I'll feel better after a hug. She hugged me and I felt worse. I felt like this was the end of the world. Death was coming to me. Death was coming to everyone. I kind of felt a little bit like I was maybe a giver of death. It was a very, very odd experience. Then a bus arrived at the bus stop for us to go to Mr. Trolley's house, which made us all feel a lot better. Like, made some of us worried because of the social anxiety aspect of, oh my god, we're young, we're tripping balls and we're getting on a fucking bus. Oh dear. But to be honest, that was not a concern of mine, considering how much I was tripping. And got onto the back of the bus. Remember feeling really warm and really happy, knowing that we were going to a destination. I didn't know these guys insanely well, but well enough that I knew I could trust them. And yeah, you know, I realised, obviously I'm going to a house, I'm going to a nice warm destination now. His parents are cool with what we're doing. This should be good, yeah. And I remember getting to the back of the bus and Mr. Trolley going like this all around his mouth and saying, oh, it feels amazing, man. This put us all into a sense of euphoria. We started laughing. And then we saw someone get on the bus and Seto said, Neo, that's your fucking mum, man. That's your fucking mum. And Neo and everyone else started laughing. He's like, no, seriously, man. That's your mum. Neo looked over and said, oh yeah. And then we all started laughing and he said, guys, we're all really, really fucking drunk. So we blagged we were drunk, got out of the bus. I went to Mr. Trolley's house. Neo went to a different stop. Presty was with me and Mr. Trolley, Seto. I and Presty went out to the park for a bit. Still tripping fairly hard, but at this point, because we'd gone through the worst of it and gotten over the bad trip, we kind of ran around the park like little children. It was amazing, man. We felt just invigorated, just powerful in ourselves. I remember we went into Ben's house and it was really warm. It was really nice lighting. It was cushy. It was nice. He had a little fireplace as well, if I remember correctly. So we went there, and we all really enjoyed that. We watched the Cat Empire or something like that, some form of anime. And then we all went to sleep and had trippy dreams. For me, that was a good experience. I had really insane dreams and it felt somewhat spiritual, having all those weird, like, visions of gods and death and weird entities and concepts. It was one of the first times I ever did that. I didn't trip completely off my balls, but it was the fact that it was I did trip pretty hard off my balls, actually. We did ingest about 100 or so mushrooms in the end, because we went back to Seto's and ate the rest of those mushrooms. So we were tripping pretty damn hard, but somehow we managed it. I think the walking and the knowing that we had to be places stopped us from really fully experiencing the trip, but it was nice. And now I'll talk about a higher level trip I've had. So I remember, I think it was truffles actually I had. I remember taking about 3 or 4 times the dose that you would normally have to trip absolute loony balls. So I think you're supposed to take about 15 grams to start tripping reasonably hard. I'm fairly sure I had 50 grams of these truffles. And I started tripping phenomenally hard. Felt like I was in a completely new landscape. And I got to a point of tripping where I felt as though I was in a fight with the evil side of spirituality, as in I was in a fight for my soul, and it felt like the evil side of spirituality could give me everything material fast, make life easy for me, make life doable, make me not feel anymore, make me not fear. And it was quite a positive in that way. But in exchange I had to give up my soul. This was what the trip gave me. And then on the other hand, I saw my soul and I felt my soul, and it was amazingly beautiful. It was many colours, many dimensions. It had all the care and empathy, all the love of the world, the feelings, you know. It could feel upset and hurt, but because it could feel, it had the capacity to feel happiness, to feel good, to enjoy, to love of people, to be loved. And a lot of me said, fuck your soul, you don't need it. It's upsetting to get rid of your soul, but you don't need it. And then there's another part of me that said, it's too beautiful, you can't let it go. And so I was fighting against these two sides of my consciousness. And I said to myself, I'm very sorry, but I can't let go of my soul. It's just too beautiful. There's too much in the world. There's too much love. There's too much energy. And after this subsided, I got to a really, really positive place. At first I was scared because I felt like I'd never get that stuff from the bad energy field, if that makes sense. This is just my consciousness playing against itself, though. Doesn't necessarily mean anything. And yeah, I remember going to a place in my mind where I felt extremely happy. I felt physically amazing. There was nothing but really, really rich colours sort of floating around the universe. Absolutely beautiful place, completely separated from all reality. And I remember having one thought, and it was that your happiness will be infinite as long as you believe that you have infinite happiness. You can make yourself infinitely more infinitely happy by increasing the magnitude of your infinite happiness infinitely. It sounds really daft, but it kind of makes sense. Even though infinity times infinity is itself, I guess, to my head, infinity times infinity was more of infinity. And for example, infinity plus 1 is a larger value than infinity itself. So I kept doing this, and every time I said this to myself in my head, I felt more and more happy, until I got to a point where I was no longer saying it to myself. I just felt more happiness and happiness, and I felt as though my happiness expanded, as though it was pouring out, like how tears pour out, but metaphorically over my head as like white lights throughout the world. And I kind of felt like I was at the top of the universe, and all this white light was pouring out of me, and I was filling the whole universe with happiness. And I was the happiness of the universe. I felt as though I was the essence of happiness. And it was a beautiful feeling. Alright, this has gone on for a bit too long, I think. So I'll just say my personal recommendations with mushrooms is, be careful, they're pretty damn potent, as per all hallucinogenics. They're not as hard and edgy as other hallucinogenics in my opinion. They feel a lot better. They're a little weird to eat. They taste strange. They've got a funny texture, and they can feel a bit grimy when you eat them. Sometimes there's maggots in them because, you know, you pick them from a field, although some people grow them, which I understand why, but nothing beats picking them. And yeah, I guess I'll say thank you very much and goodbye.